This is a new day. This is a new day full of sound and light and expectation. This day has been waiting for you, especially for you, to embrace you, to guide you. This day has been waiting with open arms just for you. This is the day we have been given. Let's not waste it. Come now and let us worship together. Welcome, everybody. My name is Reverend Joseph Boyd, and I welcome you into this beautiful sanctuary here at 1105 Elm Street on the corner of Elm and Illinois in one of the best cities in the world, Youngstown, Ohio. I welcome all of our friends and members from across Youngstown, across the Mahoning County, across Trumbull County, all the way to Pennsylvania and Hermitage. We see you. I welcome all of you across the United States, from California to South Carolina to Colorado to New York City. I welcome all of our international folks from Brazil, the Dominican Republic, Europe, and the list keeps growing and growing and growing. This church has a distinctive history. For over a century, we have had the mission of standing in solidarity with the marginalized in the community of Youngstown. And now in this virtual time, that mission has gone out into the world. And man, what a time when we need that mission. Today is a very, very special day in the life of this nation, the life of this congregation, and the life of an individual, Gary Davenport. There are many paths to choose that can lead our faith into the future during these times. And Gary Davenport has taken one of those paths to become a commissioned lay minister. And we are so proud of Gary. It's been a real joy to work with Gary through these years that I've been a minister here at UUYO. And it's a very special path where you can be a lay person, where you're not clergy, you don't have to go to seminary, you don't have to be ordained. But it's for those who are lay people who work and have a job, have a family, but have a commitment to some aspect of ministry. And Gary Davenport's calling is social justice. And wow, what an opportunity to be able to affirm that calling this morning. So we're going to do that this Sunday during this service. If you have any children who are under the age of 14 years old, I welcome you to join the Zoom link at 11:30 a.m. And if you have a child that is 15 to 18, a teenager, there's also going to be a link down in the chat box you can click on at noon. So if you have children or any teenagers that would like to be with people their own age and have great conversations about what it means to be alive during this time, please click on those links. In spirit of the commissioning of Gary Davenport as a lay minister, I also want to invite you to join a drive-by parade. Given that it's COVID, we can't do a coffee hour, but what we can do is you can drive by Louisa Berger's house and you can wave. You're welcome to stand outside with a mask, properly distanced, and congratulate Gary. If you'd like information about Louisa Berger's address or anything like that, you can contact the office at office@uUYO.org. That's going to be today, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in the Youngstown area, in the Ohio area, and you love to drive and actually congratulate Gary in person, you can do that today between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, driving by, saying hello, congratulating Gary at Louisa Berger's. And again, if you need the address or information, contact the office at office@uUYO.org. Let's see. I also want to bring to your attention, October 25th is going to be a very special interfaith service with our neighbor. I'm standing in the sanctuary. I can actually see the dome to my right. Road of Shalom, a wonderful synagogue, actually the first synagogue in Youngstown, Ohio. We're going to be doing an interfaith service between our congregations and other congregations to commemorate the Tree of Life shooting that happened 2 years ago. This service is going to be very special because we're going to be honoring those at Tree of Life Synagogue, and we're also going to be including all those who find themselves marginalized due to race and immigration status. So please join us for that service. That's going to be next Sunday at 3 p.m., and we're going to be sending that link out to you once we have that available. This coming Saturday, the 24th, we're going to offer a practice workshop on Lectio Divina. Some of you may have never heard of this practice. It's a practice of contemplative reading of text. So often we read a text like the news, and we have an intellectual understanding, and that's often where we're left, is just our first read of something. Lectio Divina is a Christian monastic practice of having a contemplative approach to reading and to approaching text. So you're welcome to join me. I'll be facilitating that. That's going to be this Saturday on this Zoom link at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you're welcome to join me for that. And now I'd like to go to Lisbeth White, who has an update about our Stewardship Drive. Lisbeth, we go to you.
Hello, everybody. This is Lisbeth from Meadville, PA. And I'm just giving you an update. We are halfway through our pledge drive, which is called Carrying Each Other Through, because that is what we are really called to do right now. At this time, we have 2 weeks left. The end of the drive is the 31st. And we have raised just shy of $65,000 in our pledge drive, which is phenomenal. Our goal is 140,000. That's just what it takes. So anybody that we've not heard from is going to be getting an email today with a little video that promotes the church, just a couple beautiful testimonials from folks, and a link to the pledge card, which is virtual this year. So please, if you get that email, please do fill out a card if you're at all able, or let us know if you're not able to make a pledge. And any questions, please reach out to me. My contact information, I'll put it in the chat. So thank you so much.
Good morning, all. My name is Christian Na. It's a pleasure to be joining this congregation again. I have thought of you often since my visit just over a year ago, and I've remembered well how welcoming and receptive you were, and I thank you for having me back again to offer a brief meditation before the chalice lighting. Some time ago, Jan Grigsby approached me and asked if I'd come back to UUYO to share a bit about my experience with queerness for the chalice lighting. And I wasn't sure what I'd share with you today until she mentioned that the theme of today's service is deep listening. And then I knew exactly what I'd say. I was 15 years old when I began to tell people that I'm gay, and about a year ago, I began to tell people that I'm gender nonconforming. Coming out a second time, this time as an adult, was certainly easier. I had new language for the things I was trying to say, and I had the support of a network I'd been building for years to hold me through the conversations that were as consequential and at the same time unremarkable as a conversation about what's for breakfast. But coming out as gay the first time around in the 10th grade was something much different. And the first time I did it was on February 7th, 2012, after school, to my best friend, whom I love and cherish, and whom I've known since preschool, Jan and Neil's daughter, Carly Edman. Carly made me feel safe enough to share what was then my biggest secret. And that's kind of a funny idea now, considering I was probably the last person in my life to find out I was gay. But in retrospect, I've learned that holding my identity inside of me, afraid to talk about it and trying my hardest not to express it, all of these ways I dealt with my queerness caused me pain, the deep, life-altering kind of pain. And it was an act of love for Carly to listen to me when I told her about my sexuality. And in doing so, she offered me the support I didn't know I needed to deal with the pain of growing up gay in a world that seems ever at odds with queerness. Deep listening, I think, can result in deep healing. And I'm realizing now, like with so many things, a lesson I learned in the context of a queer experience can be applied in the greater narrative of what it means to be human. Our world is in pain, the deep, life-altering kind. We've tried arguing with each other, ignoring each other. We've even tried war. I think it's time we tried to listen. Journalist Krista Tippett wrote a book called Becoming Wise, an inquiry into the art of living. And in it, she discusses a practice that she calls generous listening, She writes, generous listening is powered by curiosity. It involves a kind of vulnerability, a willingness to be surprised, to let go of assumptions and take in ambiguity. The listener wants to understand the humanity behind the words of the other and patiently summons one's own best self and one's own best words and questions. We trade mostly in answers, competing answers, and in questions that corner, incite, or entertain. We want others to acknowledge that our answers are right. We call the debate or get on the same page or take a vote and move on. The alternative, asking a generous question, involves a different orientation to the point of conversing in the first place, to invite searching, not on who is right and who is wrong and the arguments on every side, not on whether we can agree, but on what is at stake in human terms for us all. There is value in learning to speak together honestly and relate to each other with dignity, without rushing to common ground that would leave all the hard questions hanging. I love that excerpt from her book, and I want to practice generous listening with people who don't look like I do, with people of different generations, with people who vote differently than I do, with strangers. Like Carly did for me, I want to be present with the humanity that lies behind words, to practice engagement in total silence, to ask questions that invite honesty, dignity, and revelation. I believe that in conversations like these, conversations that are of, by, and for listening, we can momentarily suspend that which stands between people and catch sight of grace. We can heal and be healed. As we move through our lives, I invite you all to join me in bearing better witness to the people around us. Flawed and broken though we may be, we are all human too. And I believe that that truth begs generous listening. It has to start there. Thank you.
I now invite you all to recite with me the covenant of our church. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Each month, we give to an organization that supports transformation in our community, which is the heart of our mission. In our church's historic commitment to the well-being of our community, we give 100% of our offering to those in need. UUYO's Giveaway the Plate recipient for October is UU the Vote. The UU the Vote campaign launched last year as a nonpartisan effort to promote and support democracy. Since then, UU the Vote has become a robust, transformative program that is renewing our collective promise to show up and make a difference. As of late September, UU the Vote, along with their partner organizations, has reached more than 1 million voters. The work that UUYO has done with our Reclaim Our Vote postcard initiative and texting efforts through Outvote are included in that count. From state action networks to local congregations, Unitarian Universalists are not sitting this one out. In cities large and small, UUs are working alongside partners to take on racial justice, LGBTQ+ rights, climate justice, and much more. UUYO has been receiving training, support, and resources from UU the Vote and UU the Vote Ohio. More information can be found at uuthevote.org. We will now receive the offering that supports the life of Youngstown, the Mahoning Valley, and our wider world.
George Bernard Shaw was once asked to give a talk on English literature in 8 minutes. He asked, how am I supposed to say everything I know about the subject in 8 minutes? He was told, speak very slowly. So that's my aim today. I'm Reverend Denis Letourneau Paul, and I serve East Shore UU Church in Kirtland as developmental minister. And I've had the honor of serving our association and your congregation as mentor to Gary Davenport. Before that, we worked together on the Board of Trustees of UU Justice, Ohio. In 5 years, I've learned a lot about Gary. He's brilliant, kind, committed, focused, and aware. There are a lot of things that define Gary, making him who he is. And chief among them is the place where he lives and works. He is profoundly rooted in place. One time, we met over lunch in Youngstown, not far from your campus and his job at a little deli. He knew the owner, the manager, the staff, every customer, and every passerby. He knows everything about Youngstown. Its history, its struggles, its gifts, its relationship to the university and the region. He knows every detail of every natural feature of your city. What an incredible opportunity for you to be more deeply connected as you live out your mission as a congregation. There's a temptation here to say, take advantage of him, but don't. Nurture your relationship. Engage with Gary wisely. Remember that Gary, like all resources, is expendable. Be conservationists of this relationship. As long as the relationship between commissioned lay minister and congregation exists, you will both benefit enormously.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Elaine Strawn, and I have the privilege of serving as the co-chair of the Central East Region Commissioned Lay Ministry Council. This ministry has a 50-year history beginning in what was the Ohio Meadville District, mostly to serve small lay-led congregations for the purpose of rites of passage and worship. And in that time, we have expanded to become a group of about 45 commissioned lay ministers and candidates that stretch from central Manhattan to Toledo, Ohio, doing all kinds of ministries inside and outside the congregation, working in conjunction with ministers and congregations. We have a strong basis for this type of ministry in our Cambridge platform of the 17th century that calls people to use their gifts, calls them from within the congregation to serve. And that's exactly who Gary is. He comes from deeply within the Unitarian Universalist Church of Youngstown. From being part of the welcoming committee to gardening to community organizing in the Mahoning Valley, to his service to the state of Ohio with UU Justice Ohio. He's been in partnership with you under the supervision of Reverend Joseph and in covenant with your board. He works to deepen and to widen the ministry of the congregation. Over the last 6 years, at the council's request, Gary has read voluminously things that we feel will help him deepen in his UU theology and history and practice. In the midst of that, Gary has met with colleagues and with his mentor, Reverend Denny Paul, who just spoke. He has met with the council. He's been interviewed with us twice. I have had the privilege of serving as his liaison, and so he has had to send me council's reports about what's going on. And he has journeyed with you. He has practiced and succeeded and worked faithfully. And you know Gary. So you know that this has not been a one-way process. Gary Davenport, who's one who always sits in the middle of the moment and says, how can this be better? How can it be better for more people? How can it be deeper? And so now, with the unanimous recommendation of the Commissioned Lay Ministry Council, we have recommended to the Youngstown UU congregation that you commission this fine member of your congregation. Under the supervision of Reverend Joseph and in covenant with the board, you are now commissioning him on this great day. You walk well together. You keep the chalice lit in your congregation and in that wider expanse, just as Reverend Joseph mentioned this morning in his welcome. We on the council are thrilled with you and will walk with you and with Gary in the years of his ministry ahead. Blessed be.
Good morning. Gary is one of those special, caring, and dedicated individuals who truly cares about our community, and he really cares about us here at UUYO. His commitment to social justice and to our community says a lot about how he is as a person and why he's chosen to pursue a leadership role in social justice ministry. My name is Linda Moen, and I feel privileged to be a member of the Committee on Ministry at UUYO, along with Anita Wessler and Carol McWilson. We've been supporting Gary for over 4 years now, giving him feedback and insight regarding the work he's been doing here at UUYO with our congregation. And we've seen him grow in this process and develop his role at UUYO. Gary has a passion and a genuine interest in helping our community and in finding ways to rise above all the obstacles that come in the way of social justice. His intellect, his inquisitive nature, and his career background also really helped him progress. Gary's been involved in so many important issues and programs at our church and in the community, including but not limited to anti-racism, climate change, environmental issues, gardening, CQE clinics, and refugee and immigration injustices. One example that to me highlights his passion and leadership skills happened back in January of 2018. There was a public outcry when Youngstown community member Al Adi was threatened with deportation after years of fighting to stay in the United States. Gary was very motivated with this, and he organized and moderated a protest vigil at UUYO that was attended by hundreds of people. There was moving speeches from family members and local leaders, and it concluded with the Candlelight Ceremony. It was a memorable event. I personally want to thank you, Gary, for the privilege of working with you and learning from you. I know we're proud, we all are proud of your many accomplishments. And I look forward, and we all do, to your continuing leadership with Justice Ministry at UUYO. And now I'd like to read a letter from Anita Wester, who is another one of our committee members who was unable to join us today. Greetings from Seattle. Lay ministry allows an individual to concentrate on specific interests and concerns and share them with the congregation and community. Gary has done just that. Most of us are aware of his social justice work, both guiding and directing efforts of the UUYO congregation. Another branch of his ministry has been the environment and gardening. His discoveries and willingness to share have enriched many of our lives. So many characteristics exhibited by a gardener reveal the strengths that indicate Gary's success ahead as a lay minister. As Gary has shared his expanding expertise with plants to many of us, it's obvious that he has great patience, and along with that, much optimism and hope. He understands the importance of a good foundation and research. Gary has been careful not to dabble too broadly, but to set boundaries and concentrate on his interest in native plants, especially those in his immediate vicinity. I think it's noteworthy that Gary chose a black-eyed Susan as a personal symbol on his stall, a native plant that offers benefits year-round. An important ingredient in life's journey is choosing a path that gives joy and then willingly share the joy. It's been a privilege to be on Gary's lay ministry committee. Honestly, it's been fun. Thank you, Gary, for the many hours you have devoted to your studies, which benefits all of us and helps to make the world a better place. Congratulations and best wishes to Gary and the UUYO congregation. Anita.
Good morning. My name is Carol McWilson. I'm not Gemma, as some of you are probably seeing. He's usually sitting in this seat. And I'm so glad that I was able to hear the reflections of those who have come before me and can honestly say I echo all of their comments. They're also true. And it has been my honor to play just a small role in Gary's preparations for his commission as a lay minister for UUYO. In addition to the comments you have already heard, I'm especially pleased that he has taken on social justice as his commitment, particularly to those in the Black community. And he has already actively demonstrated this in many times and in many ways. I know that Gary will continue to be a real asset to UUYO and to the broader community here in Youngstown and beyond. And Gemma and I both extend our warmest congratulations and thank you to Gary for all of his efforts to be where he is today. Thank you.
Now we'll go into a period of silent meditation. Before we go into it, I would like to invite you all to hold the memory of Jan Schnall. Jan passed away on Saturday morning on October 10th. And Jan Schnall was instrumental to the life of this congregation. She was a former board president, and she is the one who actually founded our hospitality teams, which is one of the lifeblood of this church. And so let's hold the memory of Jan and also her family during this time.
Our reading today is a poem by Judy Chicago titled, "And Then." And then all of what has divided us will merge. And then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is often harsh and unkind. And then both women and men will be gentle. And then both men and women will be strong. And then no other person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and varied. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
Good morning. I think commissioning is recognition, but not for an achievement like highest GPA or biggest pumpkin or fastest running time. Instead, it is recognition of a long-standing effort by a group of people. Perhaps instead of recognition for fastest running time, it's more like recognition of a successful relay race, spanning time, distance, surprises, tragedies, changing team members, and everything else you can picture happening over 4.5 years. The first time my congregation showed me who they were was February 7th, 2011, when I asked to use their space to address a tragedy in our shared neighborhood. I lived just a few blocks from the church. I was a stranger, but the minister gave me full use of their hall and coffee supply. In addition, dozens of church members showed up to help out, completely unbidden. That's when I knew I wanted to belong. Since then, my desire to serve my congregation and community more effectively, but balance it within my life, grew. I sought a way to focus my service and answer my own question about why I cared enough to do so. The Commissioned Lay Ministry, or CLM, program became my obvious path forward. My time as a candidate for this program lasted about 4 years and 6 months, a little longer than average for most candidates. But the length of engagement is what it is, and it shows the commitment of a community's investment and dedication to building our congregation and denomination. I'll share my gratitude to this community in roughly chronological order. I share gratitude with Reverend Renee Rahutsky, my first liaison to the Commissioned Lay Ministry Council, who talked me through what the program meant and held patience while I approached it. I share gratitude with Reverend Matt Alspaugh, our congregation's previous minister, who embraced the possibility of a commissioned lay minister in his congregation by actively and happily encouraging it. I share gratitude with my congregation's board, who agreed to act as my reporting body until we built a discrete committee on ministry, and has continued to support my program in ministry to the church. I share gratitude with Reverend Melissa Carville-Zemer, my first mentor in the Commissioned Lay Ministry program, who listened and offered feedback in my early days as a candidate and sought clarity for the meaning of lay ministry. I share gratitude with UU Justice Ohio, our state justice action network, where I served for several years before and through most of my candidacy as a board member and now as a nominating committee member, and where I met so many different UUs and other people who enriched my life and enabled my ministry. I share gratitude with Reverend Joan Van Beesler, who I worked with as both a member of the CLM Council and her role as Executive Director for UUJO, and from whose insight I always benefited. I share gratitude with Reverend Denis Paul, who I also met on the UUJO board, and whose deep questioning of what it meant to expect a lay person to perform regular and consistent ministry meant for the denomination and the lay person in question, and whose insight in managing myself in a system, program, and congregation have been invaluable. I share gratitude with Reverend Elaine Strawn, my current and longtime liaison to the Commissioned Lay Ministry Council, who has offered consistent and deep insight over a span of time long enough for both council members and program guidelines to change. I share gratitude with Linda Moan, Carol McWilson, and Anita Wessler, who served for several years as my committee on ministry. They have asked great questions and offered important feedback critical to my development as a lay minister and for the ministry to the congregation and community. I share gratitude with Reverend Joseph Boyd, our congregation's current minister, who not only chose to come to a congregation with a lay ministry candidate, but offered only encouragement and support to my ministry, candidacy, and commissioning. I share gratitude with my wife, Sarah Lowry, who watched or came along as I drove here and there for meetings and retreats, generally has patience for my ideas and projects, and has assisted me in many overt and covert ways in my ministry to the congregation and community. I appreciate her so much that I married her halfway through my candidacy. And I share gratitude with my congregation, who I knew I wanted to be part of on that cold February morning. There are too many individuals to name, but I will always show my gratitude by continuing to show up and minister to us and our community the best I can. And that is my and our calling. I know it because I have been told by members of our community that we are appreciated and needed for our showing up to witness injustices that need to be seen and heard, give voice to things that need to be said but can't, and call others together to witness with us. We consistently show up to help the weakest and most affected and elevate their voices. This will become more important as we become an abolition congregation and work to abolish white supremacy and racism. We are the helpers in our community, if you're familiar with Mr. Rogers' quote. He said, when I was a boy and I saw scary things in the news, my mom would say, look for the helpers. I would like to think that we are the helpers, and it is my calling to ensure that we can continue to be so. So, thank you. And now my prayer. Spirit of gratitude, thank you for another day in this world together, the deep connections we share and grow, those who make it possible to gather during a pandemic, the listening we continue to do with one another and in our community, and the commitment of those who make all we do possible. Amen.
On behalf of the minister and the Board of Trustees of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Youngstown, we commission Gary Davenport as a lay minister whose calling is social justice. We offer a stole to Gary as a symbol of this calling for all to see, and we are so grateful for Marcia Malmer, who made this stole by hand on behalf of the congregation, to gift to Gary and to the world. Let us now place the stole.
We extinguish this flame, but never the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts until we meet again.
Blessed be you who have gathered today. Blessed be this ever-changing and ever-loving congregation and its friends. Blessed be the community in which we minister in the wider world, weary in joy and pain. Blessed be the natural world, a great web on which we are all spiders, bobbing and weaving. Blessed be the weakest among us, for whom life is a question. Blessed be the voiceless among us, to whom we listen and lift. Blessed be the powerful, to whom we speak truth, so they may hear it. Blessed be the abolition of racism and white supremacy, two horns which must be torn out at their root. And blessed be love, the greatest underlying truth. Like fire, it grows when shared. May we go forth now to bless our worlds and share the truth of love.